appreciate you all joining. Hopefully, you've been getting a lot out of the sessions preceding this one. There are some others that are going to go into even greater detail to some of the things I'm going to talk about today in terms of helping you kind of address the white elephant in the room when it comes to conversational data. For those of you that have CX programs that may not have ventured into that, those of you that have included conversational data into your storyline, maybe today is going to be the day where you can start to get more out of it. And we talk through how to start doing that. And I can point you to some other sessions that are later today and tomorrow, I think, actually, that will sort of give you some best practices of working with conversational data. But then also AI. We've invested a lot in overlaying AI into our story, making sure that you all get the most out of your data through Medallia. So part of what we're going to talk about today is connecting you to that, but then also brainstorming with all of you all. This is a workshop. We do want to get your feedback. We want to hear from you of kind of your own challenges, and maybe others have something to share. So this is part me talking through and trying to connect you to things, part trying to get everybody to collaborate and talk through a few things. You're all friends, you're all in the same industry. It's no big deal, right? This is easy. Just ask the questions of like, this is what's being asked of me. So today I'm hoping to just sort of engage everyone from that perspective, but then also try to take some of the things from main stage this morning when you see some of the new features and functionality that's being applied to Medallia, and connect you to it so that there's a little less fear of using it, and or you can start to adapt trust, etc. I'll kick off just by saying that CX isn't missing data, right? It's missing the conversation. You've already built programs, many of you, that have invested in a traditional storyline of tracking loyalty, seeking feedback when you want it. It's either super open-ended and you have no idea what's going to be in there, or it's so tailored and structured that you miss a lot of the real conversation that someone needs to have. What's changed in terms of when you start thinking about the data, what's changed is the speed, the agility, and the expectations of consumers and how they're giving you the feedback, right? So the form factor, broadening your aperture of what you're listening to is super, super critical. So we're here to kind of overlay some of our new tech to conversations, try to help open that door, open your mind to that, but then also kind of ensure that we are meeting the mark of some of your own questions. Because what I would like to do, right? My name is Courtney Shealy. I run all of global pre-sales, and my pre-sales function, right? We're organizing ourselves this year to not only be solution engineers, where we're going to be in the trenches thinking through a day in the life of how you might use Medallia to your benefit, how you might connect Medallia to partners like the session I had earlier with Ada, how you might connect Medallia to other actioning systems of record to make sure that you're getting the return that you need, number one. But number two, it's also thinking through, are we innovating with you, right? That is super important to me, and exciting that my team shows up to say, not this is just what's best practice, but this is what's best practice right now. And we're going to continue to innovate to chase the outcomes and the challenges that you have. So it shouldn't just be lead me, it's tell me what your next question is. And I'm going to make sure we design for the next 3 or 4 questions post, right? So we want to make sure this is purposeful. We want to make sure that we are looking at how fast things are changing so that we apply the technology in the right way. Technology is just technology, but we need to make sure that those that consume it, those that use it, and the next steps from it are the right ones. So my first question to you all is, you start thinking about the existing programs you're either running, you're supporting, you're a part of. What questions are you being asked most frequently?
The questions I get asked often are where we failed, where we did not deliver the service that we were expected to deliver, and in what moment exactly we failed. Because the survey doesn't give us that.
Correct. In my session earlier, I was talking through that a former customer of mine had said, if you have to call me, I've already failed you. So the survey you gave me at my after purchase, whatever, wasn't the moment that you failed me. You failed me once I got the sofa home and there was a problem with the sofa in the delivery. It was in that moment of the journey that the failure happened. And so I agree that a lot of times when we're asking for feedback, right, which is still important, we still want the feedback. At the end of this session, there's going to be a QR code where I want your feedback to say, I would have preferred to see this. I need somebody to walk me through XYZ, right? So, not knowing where the failure happens is because you're relying on a single signal to answer the story for you. And the reality is, you need to have multiple signals coming in that at least give you the footprint of the entire journey. So that's point 1, right, of thinking that through. But that's a common question is to say, number 1, where is failure happening? What's the frequency of failure happening? And is that failure happening to a specific product, subset of customers, right? That failure may not be the same for everyone, right? And then when if to your question about how do I increase feedback, response rates, it could be what's the form factor and when am I asking them the question? Because I am one of those people that it's not in the immediacy of the transaction that I'm gonna answer a survey, it's gonna be later. Let me time to sit, let me think about it. So sometimes timing of when you ask, but then if you're online, right, in a digital you see someone struggling, you wanna catch them right then and there because they're not able to execute or you wanna get feedback right away. So these strategies, you have to kind of think of your own little mind map of decision trees that you wanna make sure you have the bases covered for collecting feedback, and then you're also including other signals because the aggregate of that is going to give you a better connected experience with the customer. What's changing the most in CX right now is that the questions are coming faster. They are moving faster than the actual programs themselves. And so one of the things that we want to start to solution with you all on, right, in these programs and the way you're using Medallia is to start thinking about how do I adapt my program faster? What do I need to include? And how do you partner with me to help execute on that? And you heard in multiple sessions that there's the technology, there's the people, but ultimately everything starts with the outcome that matters, right? Knowing that you're very clear on that and partnering with whether it's us, if there's a services partner that we work that's implementing Medallia for you, right? Making sure that you paint that target bright, loud, wide to say these outcomes are what matter to us right now, quarter to quarter, month to month, however that is. The more focus and the more connected you are to the outcome goal you have, the better design you get, the better optionality and the decision tree that you come in your program becomes because you can always trace back to this falls in this bucket. I'm trying to grow revenue. Well, if I'm trying to grow revenue, I need to watch my shopping experience. I need to watch how my agents encourage or upsell on a phone call. I need to think through my transactional pieces in my chat component. I need to make sure that there are any blockers there. I'm not creating frustration. Where am I preventing that outcome from happening? So these are the things that when we start thinking through, if the questions are coming faster, there's data coming in from anywhere and everywhere. How am I going to manage looking through all of that quickly? And what's the difficulty? What's blocking me from doing what I need to do? We want to make sure that your data is valuable no matter how much data you have. Number 1, the variability of when that data comes in. A lot of healthcare companies here in the US in particular, that onboarding or the January to March timeframe is when they get probably 90% of their phone calls a year. It's because your plan just changed. I got all the new rules that I got to follow, et cetera, and making sure that I follow my insurance plans. So knowing that I can operationalize that data is super, super important. There's 2 other sessions that are going to go into detail a little bit later about that Lance Stalls and Shelby Patru and a few others are going to be conducting where it's how do you make the most out of those conversations when it's called contact center data, high volume, high value, but sometimes it's daunting, right? It's a little scary because it is so high volume. What's really the truth? What questions should I ask of it? Because my role in the organization might be product focused. My role might be service oriented. My might be digital. So part of what deploying Medallia means today, right, is taking in these signals, but then also organizing yourselves to answer those questions and make sure your frontline leaders get those answers tailored to them specifically. So that means deploying text analytics properly. That means deploying and overlaying AI to answer questions fast and quickly. So you're going to see some of that example today and why you shouldn't be as scared of it as some may think. but the key is to get consistency in what you're looking at. So, another quick question. How do you feel your role specifically is changing because of AI?
It's
Okay.
definitely a good thing. It's just about we need to know more of how to optimize AI in our functions.
Okay. That's a great how to optimize. Okay. You have another comment? Somebody else.
Sorry. I was just going to say, the executives now assume that this technology is just so intuitive and easy to use that they expect us to be, yesterday have the answers already in the reports that they're looking for.
Mhm.
And not only that, but be able to then analyze that and then drive some type of result or change with that automatically. But we're still at this infancy stage where we're trying to understand, like you just said right now, is it valid? Is, the prompt that I gave it actually looking for what I'm looking for?
Excellent point. That's actually one of my favorite examples, the prompt, because I did an internal exercise for us where I wanted to understand where are we providing value to our customers most often across industries. Because oftentimes if I'm talking to a large big box retailer, for example, they want to know what financial institutions are doing differently. Because just because you're in different verticals doesn't mean you don't have the same challenges and same questions. And one of the examples I gave when I load in all this data, I was like, okay, I loaded it in and I started prompting and asking questions in our own internal AIs to say, what themes do I see? Where are people winning and where are customers most excited? What have they tried? What have they experimented with? Because I want to arm my team with that so I can share it with you all. And so my prompts delivered the story for me. I then shared it with Sid. Are we shocked that Sid probably had very different questions than Courtney? Even though I've worked for the man for 15 years, I will say that he inspires me every day in terms of how fast he thinks ahead of where this needs to go. And I will say he starts looking at it from a completely different perspective because of the conversations he has with certain C suite people. And so I think that that is one of the things the prompts can steer you in many, many different directions. It didn't mean my data was wrong. I asked it a very specific question. He asked it a different question and he was going to do something very different with it. So when you start thinking about, do you want people able to free spirited look at the data? Yes, probably the answer is true in some cases. But in other cases, you want to keep them focused, eye on the prize of what is their job? What can they influence? What can they change? So I want the prompts to be, and this is why the Frontline Ready AI for Medallia has me excited, is because I know that the prompts are curated to deliver consistency in the answer. It's defensible, it's backed by the data that's there. No one can game it and say, all right, just give me 10% of that so that it looks better for me. No, the data's the data, it's there. And so it should start to garner this trust of understanding what I'm seeing so that I can then make a defensible act, make the next change that I need to make. And if I ever had to be challenged on, I don't think that's the right approach, Courtney. I don't think it's the right story. I don't think it's the right thing you do. I can always go back to my main dashboard where I asked that prompt and I can have all the data right there to say, this is what our customers have said up to this point, as an example. It's rare that I've ever been, as much as I've been in technology, an early adopter. I always let my husband go first. It's like, let me know how the upgrade went, before I upgrade my phone. Because I don't want to be off on a business trip and all of a sudden the latest iOS is filled with bugs, whatever it was, right? For example. So I always let him go first. I'm like, I want the new phone to get the kinks out before I get it. I'm willing to wait. One of those people because I'm more pragmatic. And the older I get though, now with this new AI stuff, I've gotten very curious, very fast, very creative, much to the chagrin of some of my brand people here, but it's still been fun to think about how do I materialize our value and how do I share that and show it. So when we start thinking about, putting AI in the proper context, here's where I want to kind of break it down for you a little bit. And I'm going to give Joanna Moser, who is one of our VPs, a product manager, props for kind of giving me this idea. She said something to me, which then allowed me to spiral and really think about how I might talk through this. But what's actually changed about AI, because it's been out there, right? I've been in text analytics for 16 plus years now. And it started out as machine learning, and machine learning enabled NLP, natural language processing. Like when we start break down your unstructured data. Then NLP became NLU, right? So we start to say, oh, now let me apply emotions and tag, not just sentiment, not just score for sentiment, but think about key emotions that I might let me find all the frustrated, confused customers, etc. Then we move to natural language generation, which is AI, essentially saying, I'm going to take cues from what you asked me, look at your data, and I'm going to fill in the blanks. I'm going to illustrate how this works. And that's how natural language generation has become the AI that we're all used to seeing today. It's all the rage because they've been playing with it and playing with us in our everyday lives, and we didn't even realize it in a lot of cases. Amazon. It may not be your fashion choice here, this sweater. Not saying it would be. But I'm going to give you an example. Everybody shopped on Amazon, right? So this is Amazon Prime. You see the product in the middle there. But on the left side, right, you start to see Rufus. This is their AI agent. And by agent, I mean it's a blend of AI and machine learning. And a little old school thing, those of you, if you've ever done Mad Libs, right? Give me your noun, verb, adjective, and I'm going to fill in the blank. I'm going to curate a sentence and apply things based on what I see. So you look at it, you think it's AI, they call it AI, but it's a little bit of a blend. Medallia has been doing the same thing. A little bit of blend of machine learning, a little bit of blend of picking up on keys, topics that we've tagged, that we've enriched, organizing it for meaning, and then ta-da, now we have topic summaries. We have the ability to summarize a call. We have the ability to do root cause assist, where I'm saying, based on this data, tell me the who, what, when, where, why of that data point going up or down. So on the left, right, the general sentiment there is a summary of customer reviews. You can still go look and read the reviews, but remember when you had to go look at them? And what'd you do? You first went to the 1 stars, didn't you? I do. I want to see what people complain about first. See? Yep, you shop the way I do. I was like, hey, let me find the negative. Is it itchy? If I see one itchy, I'm out. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to buy it, right? But even if it has 1,000 views, I just need the one to tell me it's itchy, and I won't even entertain it. So the general sentiment is it, but then the tags you see down here with the little check marks, see their quality, the fit, the color, the green check mark, right? Versus the dashed line. The green check mark is sentiment, means it's a positive comment, right? So this is the enriched tagging that they're doing. So our topic tagging, organizing for purpose. This is saying, give me feedback on the quality of the actual garment itself. Whereas if I really wanted this to be about style or cost or price or something to that nature, I might have different tags that matter, and I want to bring those up. So that's why different topic sets matter to the questions you want to ask. It matters to training the AI to get you the information you want, right? These are very easy things, and it actually kind of shortens your approach to building your programs. And then the bottom, like the FAQs, right? So then it's giving you the pre-scripted prompts, right? Here are some things I can help you with. Does it shrink? What it's doing is it's looking at all of those customer reviews and looking at common questions it sees. And the more frequency that question is seen, then it gets put here. This is kind of everyday interaction with AI machine learning that is kind of, oh, this is familiar. I get it. It's understandable. So think about now applying that to your own data. So basically, the signal from the outside world is this should be the expectation. This is Amazon is telling us this, right? Summarization becomes the interface because that's what I'm engaging with. I'm not engaging with a ton of charts and all the time anymore. I'm starting to evolve. I want the charts to help me illustrate and tell a story when I'm standing up here because people can see, and I'm one of those people that needs to see the big animal picture. But the summary behind it and the meaning behind it is what's sort of, I want the quick elevator pitch. I can remember working with some more junior people on my team at one point. I was like, oh, I found all these great insights from my customer. Like, it's amazing. Let me show you the dashboard I put together. And they come into my office and I was like, okay. And they open up their laptop and then I shut their laptop. I was like, tell me what the data said. If it was that exciting, you should already know. You shouldn't have to click through. I assume someone in the back's laughing because I probably did this to you. But this is what summarization and the sound bites that you're looking for so that you can talk to your own data, you can engage with your data, and you can then ultimately, if someone challenges you, you have the deep insights behind it. Summarization now empowers you to speak faster, understand faster. Then if you want to prompt and engage it to say, okay, well, is that still true for my highest tiered customers? Is that finding true for my early adopters? The answer might not be the same. It's this evolution of saying your CX programs are changing quickly and the variability of the data coming in is happening so fast. You have to be able to ask questions very quickly of that data and then trust what you're getting back. And that's part of what we're trying to overlay in our approach to AI. Calls, chats, transcripts, right? Seek and you shall find. There is so much data sitting in your conversations, whether that is an agentic agent that you've deployed, whether that's an actual chat live session with a live agent, if it's a bot. They drive so much opportunity and it's in the moment. It can be real time. It's not a laggard to an experience. It's a lot of times it's in the moment of the experience. And a lot of the disconnect that we see with a lot of the large customer base here at Medallia, right, is they're analyzing part of their CX program over here, and then they're analyzing part of their CX program over here. And there creates this context gap between. So who's right? Is it the people in the contact center? Is it the people in running the CX program? Is it the digital team? And the reality is everybody has some sort sense of truth, but our recommendation where you start to double down on ROI and creating better experiences is by bringing that together. You shouldn't be kept from data that matters to you in your program. I used to say, I want to be able to reach my arm into the contact center and ask for that data and do what I want with it, ask the questions of that data that matter to me without disrupting your day-to-day. I don't want to disrupt the day-to-day contact center team. I want to make sure they can execute. But what I want to be able to do is make sure that everything that resulted in that call, all of those people get the information that they need. How are we, Medallia, right, overlaying this? Like what you're seeing right here is an example of a phone call, okay? So at the top, you're starting to see when people are speaking. It's a little bit about the talk track. You could play the call if you needed to, but on the left are topics and sentiments. In the middle is the conversation, the back and forth with some of the enrichments. Right? We started out in this industry when we started looking at conversations was I need to understand what people are saying. I need to create the same tags I would from my survey program to make sure I can group that data together to get a single source of truth. This is where the true voice of customer is, right? They're actually talking to you. They're engaging with you. So why shouldn't I listen to it with the same efficacy and the same passion I had with my surveys? So when you start thinking about, okay, well, this ends up being a lot of data. You see a lot of topics there at the bottom. So we're doing the same thing that you just saw on Amazon, right? In terms of that's the expectation of creating that storyline. And then you see, okay, here's the call recording that comes from the CCAS. CCASs were built for a very specific purpose. Answer phones, execute call, typically as fast as possible. Not always the case. There are some people that like to chat, but time is money. It's a phrase for a reason. So they want to make sure if you are calling that the call is handled, but they typically have to handle more than one interaction at a time. It's a tough job to answer the phone and not know if they're going to get yelled at, etc. But so a CCAS team is focused on making sure that an agent has the tools to answer the call, route it for workflow, hang up the call. So they've sort of spent their time ensuring that part of the equation works, which is great, but it's not with CX in mind. It is not going to allow you the flexibility and the accessibility to the data like taking that same call into Medallia would allow for the rest of the business. And I'm in the business of making sure the entire enterprise can get access to that information without disrupting the rest of the story of what's needed. This rest of this call, we start looking at here's all the metadata from, so we can still have that metadata. Why does metadata matter? Metadata helps us create segmentation. Metadata helps us understand where that call came from, maybe start to build a profile around Courtney every time she calls and nags me, etc. Right? So these are the types of things that who was the agent that supported me? Was there anything agentic that led to the live agent first? Where should I learn there? Start thinking through that. What this helps me do is start to build a profile of my end customer so that they know who I am, right? So every interaction gets collected. I start to think about all of my customers as a whole, but I still have a one-to-one map to working with Courtney that starts to get developed with this metadata. Here was the call. Again, we highlighted this a little bit as I started going through, like, I'm looking for sentiment. I'm redacting things that my CX team doesn't need to see. They don't need to see the credit card numbers, the phone numbers, the account numbers. What matters to the CX team, the product team, the marketing team, etc., is what was mentioned during that call to where I can make it a better digital experience next time. I can use that soundbite for a product enhancement or even a promotional element to the product, right? So again, I said this earlier, it's not always about looking for the negative. What about looking at for the positive? Years ago, when I started looking at call data for the very first time, it was, where are we failing? Where are we failing? You brought that up. Where am I failing the customer in the journey? Where am I succeeding? Why don't I amplify that? If you mention something in the beginning of the call versus waiting to the end, I had a 35% return on that adoption of that ask. Right? So when you start looking back at what I'm doing with the phone call, sometimes it's about making it a better CX journey. But sometimes, why can't the business outcome be, how do I grow revenue? How do I train my people, my agents, whomever, to get more out of that moment? If you are spending one-on-one time with me, let me get the most out of that moment I can get. So we want to retrain, how do we ask questions of the data, which means, let me make sure I tag the data for the purpose that matters for me, which means making sure we apply our topic sets to get the right information and to keep evolving, layering in AI to let me engage with it, right, over time. That's why the investments you see and you saw on stage today was, can I build topic sets faster? Can AI help encourage me? Because this is what I see as a winning formula. Can I engage with it in a conversational way so that I don't have to think about charts and diagrams right now? I'm just trying to find out. When you start thinking about how we start to organize data, we always start day one to say, okay, what are the top call reasons for, what are the top chat reasons, right? What we're trying to do is pull this stuff together. And a lot of our booths, right, they're going to show you, if you see this live, how I can click on, you see these little summary view in that second column here, right? So across all verified payments, when people are contacting me about verifying payments, I can see the summaries, and the summaries are going to tell me, what was the feedback on that? What was the intent? Why are people even talking about verifying payment? And then I can see, was that easy? Was that hard? Was that something that broke down digitally? Couldn't look at, had to call? Couldn't look it up online. Like, that's frustrating. I don't have to call. I really don't. I'm a busy person. I'm usually in my car when I want to find, so those types of things. So this is where you start to say, we're overlaying this so to where you don't have to dig for it anymore. But every summary that you see here, as you start to go through it, here's the example, right? It was, A, I'm going to tell you how it was generated. B, I'm going to give you a summary. And the summary is taking a little bit of a Mad Lib approach as well. It's like, respondents reported this. Here was the pain. Here was the understanding associated with fees. Some individuals encountered issues with activating newly opened accounts. It's literally going through and prompting for common questions that you're going to ask. And then if I need to know more, I can always open that up and go into root cause assist. Now break that down for me. That was a great summary, but let me know more. Who were those new customers? Was it customers that were within the first 3 months? Customers that were a year old? Those types of things. Ultimately, embracing AI within Medallia is giving you the same accessibility you use in your everyday life today, shopping online, looking for that type of information to make your own personal decisions, is the same that we want to help you and encourage you to do in your CX programs today. So accessibility is empowerment to action. And as we invest on getting you closer to the right action, we hope that you invest in communicating with us of, here's what I need to be empowered. I need this question answered. I need to organize my data in this way. We are leaning into accessibility, but we also want to provide you defensible controls, right? So that's why we pre-prompt. We give you those summarizations, but then it's backed by the data and the chart that's right there if someone challenges that summary. How many data points gave you that summary? Do I need the data points for 2,000 entries, 5,000 entries for it to be meaningful? Or do I just need to know what's happened in the last week, the last couple of days? Is this going up? Is this going down? Right? Those are different decisions. And all of these things, depending on how you want to set things up, right? Become powerful for you in your programs. What have we learned? Summarization is ambient. It's expected. It's not something you have to run. It's going to be always on in the Medallia system. Give me the shortcut. I've set it up. These are the common questions I know I'm asked. So I want to be prepared. And I want to have answers to 2 or 3 more questions at the same time. I want to be able to look at something and answer as many questions as I possibly can. But then the system carries the burden. Like, users don't have to perfect the question. My prompt versus Abby's prompt versus your prompt, I don't have to worry about that because I've given them the data. I've given them the prompts to answer the common questions. And then eventually, I might empower certain people in my organization as we launch. How do I engage with the data in a more free-form way and ask all these questions, like what Sid and I were doing earlier with the same data set, right? He asked questions that were pertinent to him. And the more I learn what types of questions he wants, guess what that means? The more I now know the questions that he's going to come to me so I can preempt that next time. These are the things that we want to kind of help your programs with, right? So that it's not so unwieldy bringing in contact center data. It's not so unwieldy bringing in that chat data with your survey data. If anything, I do believe that the more I understand that data, the better my ask when I do ask for feedback could be. It could be more targeted. It could be more prescriptive. It could be launched at the right time. And I don't need 50% of people to respond to me. I just need a handful because I'm testing a hypothesis and a theory, and then I can make sure I get the right type of feedback, right? Trust beats cleverness all day, right? So I want to be curious and creative with my ask of the data, but I want to trust what I get back. Just because I ask the question in a very kitschy way doesn't mean I want the data to somehow be manipulated so that it works in my favor versus your favor. So that's why we want to be grounded in truth. We want to make sure when you do see root cause assist, topic summaries, when you start to get smart response, right? We start thinking through the voice of who you are to make sure that AI is being deployed in a way that fits your organization, that doesn't have 2 people in your team get different answers to the same question. And it's something that you can go back to say, okay, we didn't waste our time. And if I need to dig deeper, I can dig deeper. But at least we were all starting from the same place. Bringing that standard to CX, right? We want to apply the same pattern to customer conversations. We want to make sure that we are not afraid of looking at that data and it's on its own, but in the collective. We are constantly designing how we deliver, what we deploy for each of you, and the way that we help you set up your programs to keep you pushing more towards the modern edge of what you need, right? We don't want your programs to be stagnant. We want to lean in. The new ELT that joined Medallia last year, I worked with them. I worked with them for the last 15 plus years. And it's coming in with a fresh set of eyes now with all this new technology and thinking, wait, how do we come in and make this even bigger and better? And how do we make sure people feel comfortable with what they see? The more questions you ask us, the stronger we're going to get to make sure we deliver on your ask. So, what you see on Amazon, how do you work with that? How do you see this in your data at Medallia as well? Where does AI help you today, or does it make it harder?
What I find sometimes is that I'm less close to the feedback than I was before when I was the one reading through 100 comments from our, closed loop program for the previous month.
But it's a lot of pressure. I mean, am I missing the forest for the trees for that? Like, did I just rely on the summarization to make my decision? Or can that summarization point me in a direction to then say, okay, now I need to go answer how often? I think of it as, what did I identify? What did I quantify? And then what's being recommended, right? And if I apply that logic to just about anything, when you start thinking through, okay, I identified this, or here's my stat, but what's the frequency of that? And then the frequency of that happening, was the sample size really small? Was it just a particular set? Like, I have to investigate a couple questions of that. And then the right action could be very different depending on the segment, depending on the product, depending on if this was a brand new product we launched, I expect a lot of issues and bugs and like, for example. But if it's something that has been tenured, well adopted, why am I seeing a drop off? Well, is it because it's not keeping up with expectations? Is it no longer the favorite thing? Those types of things too. So
Yeah. I think the other element of that is if I'm continuing to ask the same question over and over and an insights assistant should that really be a report? Many of you guys have programs that are 5, 6, 7 years old. Are we watching those engagement metrics? Are they still answering the questions that are relevant today? And am I using the right tool set? Is it really time for a reporting refresh
Yep.
versus, hey, I'm going to get a quick answer to this question I'm curious about? So making sure we're considering that.
From a summarization perspective, part of the challenge is the sanitization of the information. Taking her example, she read the 100 cases. There's going to be sophisticated customers that actually know the error code and might mention it in 10 of those cases, right?
Mhm.
And it's not going to be embedded, or it's not going to be up leveled, that error code, potentially, by the machine learning, because it wasn't representative enough in the data
Correct.
set. So that's one challenge, is bringing sort of the overly sanitized data back to like product teams. They're like, I can't do anything with that.
Mhm.
Right. And so it's needing to drill down into the nuances, because the up level data rarely will influence a product team to take something off their backlog, because you brought them sort of this high level problem.
Right.
So that's one of the challenges I see that we're seeing with AI.
With the AI. That's great. It's interesting that you bring that up. I had a customer, product manufacturer, vacuums. Just gonna say they were vacuums, which, by the way, it wasn't Dyson, actually. Competitor, Shark Ninja. But what was interesting, and this was usually what I liked, was first lesson in sentiment. The word suck for a vacuum is positive, people. It is not negative. So you got to do a little tuning there. So it was kind of a fun. I was like, why is everything red? I was like, it's supposed to be doing this. So it was a lot of changes. But what was interesting with them, and the reason why I bring this up is, and they taught me that a lot of times, when you look at products and the error codes and looking for where the issues might be, there were certain product families that mattered way more to them than others, because it's where they invest all their dollars. It's where all the commercials, they're in the SKU families that are the elite. When you see those commercials spilling the milk with all the Cheerios and stuff, they're getting them, right? So those are the things that really mattered to them. And so I take that approach now to customers to say, are there product families that matter most? Let me go isolate down my topic set to support that particular suite of products, so that I do get more information. AI and the summarization is not going to diminish it, because it's not that important anymore. It is tied to where we get most of our revenue. It is tied to where we are planning on investing and growing a certain market segment, those types of things. So I found it interesting that sometimes you have to play around with where are you going as a company? Those 3 outcomes that I mentioned earlier, is like, what are those targets? I need to know what those targets are, because then we might make recommendations to say, let's build it could be a new report, but it could be a new topic set. It could be a new overlay or prompt to the AI to make it fit the needs that you have, right? To make the right recommendations. Go see the booth. You can see a lot of these things live, right? You can see this session, right? If you want more questions, we want to make sure we show up and we're having meaningful conversations with you. So if this is a challenge you're seeing with AI, or using conversational data in your programs, put it here. We'll help make sure we address it. Happy to come talk to you personally, and/or, right, just make sure that we show up talking about that more frequently, so that if you are shy and don't want to ask those questions and don't like a mic on your, yeah, it's fine. It'll work out. So thank you all for your time, though. Appreciate it.